Hello and welcome to this video about extending correlation engine with meta discovery rules. So what are meta discovery rules? Those are basically meta rules that define other rules. They are used to extend the existing capabilities of the correlation engine. They are meant to find new patterns, custom patterns that you might have in your application, and they're a very powerful tool to make the correlation engine find better, more accurate rules. The meta rule itself generates other correlation rules that you can then save. And those rules can be either regular all body text, which is like prefix suffix rules, or they can do a search with regular expression type of a rule. And I'm going to show you how to do it. First, a word of caution. This isn't basic correlation stuff. It's not even advanced. It's like very advanced. So if you want to don't know anything about correlation or want to learn more, we have another video that talks about all the basics of correlation up until intermediate advanced stuff. This is kind of high level advanced. So yeah, just be careful. And then it does require the way it works. It uses regular expressions, so you need to know what you're doing about regular expression. I'll give a short, brief overview, but you may need to know a little bit more than that. And then, if you really think you need this thing, I really suggest that you contact us. So support@value.com. We will help you find a solution which is most appropriate if you do need that. But it's a good thing to know in the back of our mind that we have this great capability in mind. Lastly, this is brand new out of the lab experimental feature, so it might change and it's not really yet available for everybody. So if you need it, then again, contact us and we can let you have it. Okay, so here I have a script that I recorded that is made on purpose to be challenging for the engine, and I want to show you how the meta discovery rules can help and to make more accurate and better rules. So we have here a request and the second request, and that request has some ID and some token. Let's try to see where these things are coming from. So I'm looking at the token. I'm going to do find all. And so, yep, we can see it here. This is ID 6 and we have it here. That's me. But we can see that the first occurrence is actually in ID 4. That's the previous response. And that's my token. So that's what I want to extract. Later we'll deal with the ID. So we need to get it from that list. What I'll try to do, I'll let the correlation engine try to find the rules automatically for me. So I'm going to run correlate script and discover rules and let the engine find rules for me. Yep, sure enough, the engine did find two rules, one for the ID and one for the token, and we have it there. Let me make them permanent rules so we can look at them. So now we have them as permanent rules, and let's see what we got. Okay. So now we have the two rules for our token. This is our token extraction rule. It's going to extract this value, and that's what it's going to look for. So it's going to start with token, and then there's going to be some item name. But the problem with that is just token and item name wasn't unique enough. If we look back at what this thing looks like, they all have token. We have many entries here with token and item name. So the engine just keeps going a little bit to both ends and try to extend the context to get something more unique. And it added like something here. So this is our, yeah, so we did add that part also here. So that's our rule. It's going to get the token using this prefix and that suffix. Now the problem with this is that in my example, both the item identifier and the token are both dynamic and will change. So we can't rely on that prefix to get a token because that would not exist here. This would be a different number and then the engine would just not find it. So there are several different ways to handle this. We can just decrease the prefix to be that and say that this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 element. In some cases, that's a good enough option. but let's say this list has a various variable length. It can be maybe bigger or shorter. So the other approach is to have the context that we want, which is the item name. So I can fix the rule to not have this as part of its prefix, but actually do have the item name in it. So that would work. Yeah, let's see it. So I'm gonna go to my rules. This is my newly created rule for the token. So yeah, it was using this prefix and that suffix, and I'm gonna use a different one instead. So I'm gonna say that it starts with token, and this is the value, so I'm gonna remove, and it ends with that. All right, so that works. Let's just rerun correlation. Okay. So yep, that's our token. Now it's using the item name, which is what I want. So that's good. So that's the regular way to do it with correlation. The problem with what I did is just that maybe you have this in many different places. Maybe you're using this token all over the place, or many different tokens with many different item names. So that means you need to now create many different rules. Enter meta discovery rules. So with the meta discovery rules, I can teach the engine that I have this structure. I have a token that I want to extract, and I have an item name which is going to be different, but I want the rule to actually contain the item name, but I want the engine to find it for me. So if I needed to have all these tokens, the engine would make one rule for cheese, one for the book, and one for the dog, etc. Okay, so that's what meta discovery rules are. As I said, this is going to be using regular expressions. So let's see what it looks like. So let's go correlation rules editor, and let's just nuke these guys. Let's remove this one. And let's create instead a new rule. And that rule is of type meta discovery rule. It's a special kind of a rule. Okay. And it's going to have a regular expression to find what we want. So let's go back and see what is the regular expression that I want. So I'm going to use some, there are various websites that help you work with regular expression. I'm using one of them. So this is what I want to do. Okay. So I want to have an expression to say what I just did. So starts with token, ends with different item names, and has the value inside it. So let's see if I can do a regular expression to do just that. So right, so this thing just did match the value, that the specific value that I wanted. Note here that it actually says that dot has a special meaning in regular expressions. So if I would have a different value, which is called piggy dog or whatever, this regular expression still actually fires and finds it because that's a special character in regular expression. So just so you know, you need to escape those things sometimes. This will be important later on in my demo. So that's this thing. And now to the regular expression. So I'm going to use what we call capture group in regular expression to find the different parts of what we want to have. So we want to have a prefix. It's going to be the value, which is going to be a different value. And then there's going to be an item name, which is going to be different. So the first part is the prefix. So I'm going to put brackets around it. So that's our prefix, and you see that this thing tells me this is group number 1. So that's capture group number 1. It has the token. The second thing we have here is the value, and that value is going to change every time for each one of these different rules. It's going to change. And so the last thing we have is this part, which is going to be the suffix. In my case, the suffix is big dog, but I want this to be generic to fire for all of these guys. So the different is that I want to match everything. So I'm going to do dot, which is any character, plus, and also I'm going to do a question mark. So the reason this is important is that we want to have a lazy matching. Let me show you what I mean. So if you just do in regular expression, yeah, if you just do dot star or dot plus in regular expression, it finds as much as it can. So here it would match the item name, and also there is something else here where it would keep going as much as it can until it finds that quote mark. And that's not really what I meant. I meant just go for the first quote. So I'm gonna do the lazy type of searching, and this one would say, as soon as I found the next thing, I will stop looking. And we're going to use this notation quite a lot because that's mostly what we want. When we need to have some delimiter, usually we mean the first delimiter, not the last delimiter. Next, I want to change it to be, okay, it didn't fire all of them because I still have that value. Let me just for now change it to the same notation. Dot plus question mark. Right, okay, so now we have all these different values, and those are all potential correlation rules. So when the meta discovery will fire, it would create all these different rules that has this as the prefix, something in the value, and then this as their prefix. This is going to be the value, and that's going to be the suffix. All right. So now that we're happy with what we have, let's grab this and make a rule out of it. All right. So we're going to go back to correlation rules editor, and we're going to create a new rule. Where is it? Yeah. So we want to delete this old hard-coded rule. I'm going to create a new rule. It's going to be a meta discovery rule. And so the regular expression we have is this. So we have the first thing is going to be, the first capture group is going to be the prefix, and then this is going to be the value. So I'm going to put here $V. It's the special notation saying that's where the value needs to go because we want that rule to fire for a specific value. We want the engine to find for a certain value that we're looking for. So that's going to be the $V. And then the last part is going to be our suffix. This suffix, as you can see, it's basically static. It's going to be the same value all the time. But this thing is going to be changing because the name here will going to change. So I just want to create a regular prefix suffix all body rule. So that's what I'm going to keep it. The template is only applicable for the regular expressions. We'll see it later. And now, so what's going to be the prefix and suffix? We can use the template of what we have here. The defaults is what you'll normally do. So $1 means the first matching group. That's this thing. And the suffix is going to be that matching group. All right. Let's see how it's going to work. So this is going to be the token meta rule. Okay. So let's run correlated discovery rules. We're now activating the correlation discovery rules. Okay. So let's look at this token. Now we have a rule, a new rule created, but this guy is created from the meta rule. So we have a new rule that was created based on our meta rule. And the rule has the right prefix and suffix that I wanted it to have. So it has the, based on the format that we defined to it, it found the right rule. So let's add it as a rule, just so we can see it. Yeah, but now you can see that the rule that was automatically discovered doesn't have that extra wrong prefix, it has the structure we told it would have, and that's great. So that's what we want to see, and this is basically the rules that the meta rule itself creates a separate rule. So we have the meta rule that all it does is create other rules. Now next time I run it, I don't need to run correlation and auto discovery. I can just run correlate script because I already have the value for this item. Next time I'll have more items, I'll have something else, my application changes, but the structure, the concept stays the same. The meta rule will fire again and find us new rules. All right, so that was good. So we solved the problem with the token. Now let's see about the ID. All right, so let's see what's happening with the ID. So we had the ID here, 1796. Kind of a similar thing, also coming from here, just next to my token. That's the identifier. And again, similar kind of a problem. The identifier, so the rule that was created would use the identifier, and there's not enough context, so the context suffix contains the token, which is again dynamic. So now we can't really go. It's very hard to get more context. So we can again solve it by regular stuff, getting maybe the previous context or maybe get the number, but we want to do the same thing, base it on the item name. So I want to include the item name. But the problem is that here in the suffix, I have the token, and the token is going to be dynamic by itself. So in order to solve this one problem manually, I'm going to use a regular expression. So a regular expression, regular rule. This is not yet a meta rule. This is just a correlation rule that we have to find this one problem. All right, bear with me. So, yeah, where do you have that? Let's grab this thing. All right, so now we want to find the token. Okay, we need to escape that, so we'll find the right one that we wanted, and then so basically what we want to have the item identifier is what we want to find, and the token is something that we don't care. So we're going to replace it with a generic matching thing, which is our usual dot plus question mark. So this thing would find the identifier regardless of what is the token. Okay, so now we have a so now let's create a prefix for it. So the prefix is going to be item. Sorry, no, it's actually the opposite. So when we do the search by regular expression, the thing we want to match is actually the value itself. So we want it to find this thing, no matter what it is. We want it to find it. So I'm going to do dot plus question mark. Okay. So now we can see that this rule actually fired. It's going to find the item identifier of the big dog item regardless of what's in the token. So even if I'm going to change the token, that rule is still working and is still finding the number that I want. Okay, so now let's reuse that and use it as a correlation rule in WebLOAD. This is still a manual rule, that's not a meta rule, but let's see how we use that in WebLOAD. So I'm gonna go to my correlation rules editor, and I'm going to replace, so we have this ID that uses this prefix suffix, so I don't need this rule. I'm gonna use a different rule, which is gonna be search with regular expression. So the regular expression is the thing that I have here. This is the regular expression. It's gonna find item identifier, and then this is gonna be the matching group, and it's gonna have that suffix. The suffix is gonna have the big dot dog, but some token that we don't care about. Okay, so that's why it's going to work even if this changes. Now the template is, all right, so once we have all these different things or capture groups, what's the actual value we want to get out of it? So we're going to just use $1. $1 means the first um, capturing group, which is what I want to have. If I had more of them, or you can do things that are a little bit smarter with it, use the second capturing group or append some capturing group, but for now we'll just use $1. Actually, we don't even need a template. That's the base, that's the default one, so we can leave that empty. All right, let's see if it's working. So we're gonna do, I'm just doing correlate script. I don't want to discover it because it's a hard-coded basically rule. All right, so that's the rule fires, and that's what it looks like. So it's gonna create a rule, and that's the output of the rule. It's gonna find an item identifier of and capture the identifier, and it's have some token which we don't care about. We don't capture it because we just don't care what's in it, but we do care that the item name is gonna be big dog, and that's gonna work regardless of what the token is, and it would find us the identifier that we want. Great. So that's pretty neat. But again, what happens if we want to do the same thing over and over again for all of these different item identifiers? We have many different items, and maybe we have it in other requests also. We have this pattern going on many times. Enter meta discovery rule for regular expressions. So now we want to have something that would generate the regular expression that we were just doing. Okay, so yeah, so now basically instead of capturing this thing, we want to capture what is what are the parts that make up this discovery rule. You see, this discovery rules only works for that one item, but I want it to fire for all the different items. So what did we have? We have here this whole item identifier. That was part one. Then there is the value, which, yeah, that's the value. Actually, I don't really care about it. I don't need to capture it. So then that's the value. Next, we had some token, and sorry, yeah. Next, we have the token and the token that we don't care about, and the item name is going to be sorry, it's like that. So there's going to be a token, but this is going to be part of our regular expression. And then we have the item name, which can be different. So we're going to do dot plus question mark. Great. Okay. So now we have all the parts that we need in order to generate the regular expressions that we wanted. So all these ones are going to become potential rules. They all have this part at the beginning, and then this is the value we're after. And then there's going to be this part. This thing we want to change. We want this to be a regular expression. We don't want to have hard-coded token. If we just wanted, if the token was constant, then we wouldn't need the regular expression rule. But this part actually is changing, and then we want to have all these different items. So one of them will have cheese, one of them will have book, one of them will have pear. So that's the structure we want to get for our special rules. So let's see how I convert this to a meta rule. So basically I'm going to just use that and go back to my correlation rules editor, and now I don't want that basically hard-coded rule anymore. I'm going to delete it, and instead I'm going to create a new rule, which is a meta discovery rule of type regular expression. All right, so here goes my regular expression. It has the first part, which is the item identifier. And then that next part, if you remember, was the value, which is going to be different every time. I want here this to be the value. So I'm going to do $V. That's the value. And then we're going to have this second part is token semicolon. And then this we want to keep as a regular expression. And then we have that last value, which is item, and some item name, which is going to be different every time. All right, so what is my temp? Now I need to create a template that will create a regular expression. So the regular expression I want to have is the first thing. So that's item identifier. And then the value, which is the one thing we want to capture now. So we're going to create a capture group for that. Bear with me, this is complicated stuff. All right, so this would capture it in the actual rule that we're creating. And then we want to have the token, which is 2. And then we want to ignore the token. So we're gonna ignore the token. And then we're gonna have the last part, which is the item name, which is gonna be different for every rule that is generated. So this, the template defines how is the rules that are generated are gonna look like. So they're gonna have the item identifier, they're gonna have a capture group for the value, which is gonna be different every time. They're gonna have some token that is going to be ignored, and they're going to have a specific item name every time. So one for dog, one for cheese, one for each one of the values that we had. Okay. One more small fix we need to do for this template. If you remember, the item name that I had a dot. And so Dora3 would have dog, my dot dog, or whatever it was, big dot dog. But the dog actually, the dot is actually not something that you should use in regular expression. It could be something else. It could be, let's say, a Dora sign or a quote sign, something that is actually part of regular expression, and you cannot include it without escaping it. If you remember, when I had the dot, I had to do a slash dot to make it a literal part. So we have a special notation for the matching group to match things that are going to be safe for regular expression. So $$ is going to mean $1 means capturing group number 1, but safe for regular expression. So basically escaped for regular expression. So everything I'm going to do here, I'm going to use the $$ notation. So now it's going to generate the regular expression, but in a regular expression safe way. All right. So this is going to be the ID meta rule for regular expression. Let's see how this thing works. So I'm going to do correlate and discover rules. All right, so we have the token and we have the ID. Let's make this thing a permanent rule so we can watch it. Okay, great. So the engine automatically discovered for us this special regular expression rule, and that's the template that it generated. It has item identifier, captured item identifier, token, which we ignore whatever is in the token, and the item name is big / dog. So that's the regular expression we wanted, and that's the new rule that was just created for us. And this is the rule. Yep, so that's what the regular expression looks like. It's a little bit more readable here. Oh, also there is a dash in item identifier, so that dash also got escaped. So that's the rule that was generated. Those rules that are generated, they have all, like any other discovered rule, they have all kind of parameters like correlate exact matches and ID that you can tinker with. Now that the rule is created, it's up to you. You can say, I want this value actually to fire everywhere. So you can say, don't just correlate exact matches and not in this just specific field, but everywhere. So now it's your own rule to play with. You can change it. But again, the discovery rule would keep working as long as you have these same patterns in your system. It would keep finding new accurate rules for correlation. Thanks for watching this video. It's a little bit complicated, but maybe you got the idea of what can be done with meta discovery rules. As always, and especially if you do need to do something as complicated as that, please do reach out to us at support@radio.com. Thank you and have a good day.